Marvel's What If Episode 2. I kind of enjoyed the first episode a lot more because I felt like that episode had a lot crammed into it. And this episode also had a lot crammed into it, but it felt a lot more. And also, I think a lot of people are going to be biased towards this episode because of Chadwick Boseman's passing. Now, I'm not trying to play that down as anything less than a tragedy, but I think one of the big issues I had after he died is I heard all these people come out and claim he was one of the greatest actors of all time. No one thought this when he was alive for the most part, or said this. And they were only, and the movie that they're referencing as him being the greatest actor of all time was Black Panther. Now, Black Panther is a fine movie. Like, it's fine. Some people might even say it's better than that. I wouldn't say that, but if you want to say that, fine. But Chadwick Boseman's performance in that movie was pretty weak compared to his performance in Civil War and other Marvel movies after that, like Endgame and stuff. He gave better performances. You know, even though he wasn't in that movie very much, but he had a better performance in that movie for the quick second he was in that movie. You know, he is a very talented actor. He's been nominated for awards and things like that. But Black Panther, all of his Black Panther stuff, whatever Marvel movie you want to say, is always his weakest performances. That doesn't mean they're terrible, they're fine, but that's the problem, is like people don't know him for his great performances, and I get it, Marvel's more popular than some of those other movies, and I understand that. But just don't, why are we calling him the greatest actor of all time if you don't know him for more than one thing? You know why I think Jack Nicholson's one of the greatest actors of all time? Because I know him from multiple movies where he gives amazing 10 out of 10 performances. Same thing with Marlon Brando and a few other actors, you know. These people give 10 out of 10 performances in multiple movies, not just one. And so when you're saying he's the greatest actor of all time, it annoys me. So in this episode, I think from what I understand, Chadwick Boseman did the performance in this episode, and this episode was dedicated to his memory, which was nice. You know, I'm not discrediting that. That's a nice gesture, but it's kind of like I don't think his performance in this episode was very good. It felt like he was saying, it was weird to me. It didn't sound like the character. It just sounded very off, and I don't know how how close this was recorded from his passing. Or not, but I don't know. But he did not sound very good in this episode. It kind of distracted me a lot of the times. Sometimes it was like, oh, the performance works. Other times it was like, well, your performance just sounds a bit off. But in the movie, not in the movie, in the show, or in this episode, basically Star-Lord is Black Panther. What I liked about this is that you kind of show what's wrong with Peter Quill by showing how great T'Challa is Star-Lord, because he brings good to the universe. Like, yeah, he's working with scummy people, but he stopped Thanos from committing genocide in this universe and other things like that, which is cool. That's a really cool concept. But it also shows what's wrong with Peter Quill, which is that he's a kid who was messed up because his mom died. And because of that, he's not really able to do that as good of things, because he's still dealing with a lot of trauma and pain. And so, being put through what the Ravengers did to him made him worse and kind of made him sociopathic a little bit. But through the events of Guardians of the Galaxy, he has to grow some empathy and some concern, because in that movie, he was kind of a douchebag who just didn't really care about anyone. What I don't like about this episode, though, is it makes the Ravengers seem like good guys, and they're not good guys. They're screwed up people who do screwed up things. They're willing to help T'Challa because he's one of their own. And T'Challa is the reason they're doing good. But at the end of the day, they still kidnapped a child and lied to him. That's messed up. And I think they should have dived into more of this, because I think it was hinted in Guardians of the Galaxy that Star-Lord probably wasn't the only child they did that to. probably multiple. But yeah, and then I don't like the ending of this episode. It's like Peter's dad comes to get Peter at the end of this episode, like Ego, and that's how it ends. It's like that's a story for another time, but it's like that's not gonna be the next episode, is it? I mean, that would make sense if it was, but it's also like probably not. So yeah, I'm very conflicted on this episode. I like the jokes about Thanos' plan being genocide, and Venom was like, that's ridiculous. That's just genocide. And he's like, no, it's okay because it's whatever dumb excuse he says. But it's just, I don't know. I like this episode. I like that they gave Howard the Duck a role in it. I wish they would just stop using Howard the Duck as cameos and actually like do something with him. Like, if you have to make an adult show or movie on Hulu, just do it. I want a Howard the Duck something. Because here's the thing about Howard the Duck. A lot of people don't know this, but the first ever Marvel movie was Howard the Duck. That was the first Marvel movie ever created in the 80s. It was directed by George Lucas. Terrible movie. But it's a very historically important part of the Marvel universe and things like that. You know, so kind of like, you know, using Howard the Duck as just punchlines is kind of disrespectful to kind of what built their empire that they're now sitting on. You know what I mean? So I think that's a little irritating, but whatever. It is, yeah. I saw a lot. This episode was fine. I just didn't really get what the point of. I don't know. I just didn't feel like this episode touched on all the things it needed to make this story worth watching. Which is that it was just too quick, had too much going on, and had all these character developments that happened off screen because it didn't have the time to show them, which is kind of irritating. Like, I would like a nice montage of like T'Challa and Yondu and all these Ravengers like helping people at the beginning of this episode. Then you can get into the story. Like, does this episode just need to be longer overall? But it was fine.